the way that we're going to approach this is we're going to look at coaching from a different perspective. This is
Sure.
an opportunity for us to see that when it comes to coaching, it's going to be more about a partnership and
Mm-hmm.
less about consulting. Because coaching is, we want to develop the clubs to the point that they become more and more self-sufficient as they move forward in the process and less dependent upon the coach to solve their problems. So when we look at Toastmasters, people join for different reasons. They start out with a purpose on why they join Toastmasters, but over a period of time, that purpose becomes their passion. And it moves from a club to a family. And with a family, we're very, very invested in Toastmasters. So if I could ask you, why did you join Toastmasters?
I would say my key goal is to become a better communicator, and being in sales. When I meet customers, how much I'm able to influence my customer in terms of not talking about my product and trying to sell at first shot. Positively influence, being able to positively network with. Eventually, if I can make a sale in my fifth or sixth meeting, then that is good. So for that reason, I would like to, technically I know I can handle things, but I wanted to be a better presenter, better communicator. So that was my key, reason and
Excellent.
goal. Yeah.
Excellent. I'll tell you my story. I was involved in Toastmasters about 3 years ago, and then my job changed
Okay.
where it became too demanding, and I was also doing a lot of things in the community. Making a Thursday night meeting was a little difficult, so I walked away from Toastmasters for about a year and a half, and I was talking to one of my mentors. I usually meet them during November, December to kind of give me guidance into the new year. So I met with one of my mentors, and he asked me, he goes, okay, what are you really looking to do both in your current job as well as your business? I know that you're doing some coaching and speaking. What do you really want to do? And I told this individual, I want to do more public speaking. I like to do public speaking for a fee instead of for free. I like to transition and build that book of business. And he goes, the fastest way to the stage is going to be Toastmasters. Because you really need to consider going back to Toastmasters and continue, as they say, refining the craft. How to speak more effectively, how to be persuasive, how to influence. So I approached my manager as we were getting ready to do my performance plan for 2019, and she goes, what are you going to do outside of the organization when it comes to personal development? I said, well, I'm going to go back to Toastmasters. And my first manager really wasn't that enthused about it, and I still went forward with it. But the key thing that I saw for me, it's an opportunity for me to sharpen the saw, as Stephen Covey says. How can I become a more effective speaker and a speaker that can influence and persuade?
Right. Agreed.
Then when I went over to the first TLI and I met Stella, Belinda, Noel, Larry New, I just got so involved with Toastmasters that it became a passion because it was like family. I saw how we're beyond being a club and we're a family that really wants to help each other.
Right. Absolutely. I agree.
So when I look at coaching and I look at the club situation, I'll bring this from my perspective.
Sure.
I've had the unique opportunity. About 3 years, I got certified in Richardson, which is an industry standard sales and coaching program.
Okay.
Subsequently, somebody that I know from my community had approached me and said, Arturo, I know you're doing coaching. I'm putting together a certification program. How would you like to become double certified? So I went ahead and pursued that. And when I have been coaching individuals and reflecting on the nonprofits I've worked with in the past, I kind of see this trend is that our clubs are going through the motions day in and day out. They're hosting their meetings, they're doing their elections, but then they hit an obstacle in a road. And it could be a lack of membership, could be people attending and not becoming members, maybe not being able to fill the roles for a meeting, or people not wanting to be officers. They get in that struggle, and then over a period of time, all they see is the obstacle. And that struggle becomes their mindset. And when that struggle becomes their mindset, they get stuck. That's why they need coaching. They need someone to step in and help them see a new perspective, help them see things from a different point of view. And that's what we're going to focus on, is the role of the coach to bring a fresh perspective to their situation and to help them get unstuck. What I've learned is This is what coaching does, and this is the beauty of having a coach. I know for myself personally, for the last 4 years, I've had a professional coach and I've had a personal coach. And this is what I've gleaned from this opportunity of working with these two gentlemen is it creates awareness. Why? They see things from a different perspective. As one of them told me, it's like, Arturo, I see your life in a box. I see everything spinning around, everything that's happening to you. And he goes, I can see solutions that you can't see. And most of all, I can see a way forward that you don't see. And that's the true benefit of coaching, because oftentimes we equate coaching with correction, especially in the professional ranks. It's like, I've got an employee who's underperforming, I need to correct him. No, correction is a byproduct of development. You coach to develop. You coach to develop your team. I like to always go back to the NFL. When you look at the great NFL coaches, we'll take Belichick from the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little bias to being a Tom Brady fan for the longest time is Belichick has his coaching. He's looking to develop his team. At no time in a game does he rip off his headset, put on pads and a helmet, and goes out there and plays the game. That's not his role. His role is to take the players, like we are going to take the club, and we're going to help develop them to see a new perspective to where they can get unstuck. And coaching's ultimate goal is that it accelerates learning because you have someone walking beside you, coaching you on the process.
Like a hand holding and being there to support.
Right, is being there for them.
Yeah.
Is how we're going to look at it. So the way I like to illustrate this is a very simplistic picture. What you have here is from to. You have the club, their performance is their from. That's where they are today. That's their now. We want to move them to the to, which is their potential, is how they used to be in the past. Because when somebody gets stuck, they're stuck in performance and they're not moving forward. They're not realizing their potential. So it's going to be up to the coach to help them build that bridge to their potential. And we're going to talk about a universally accepted coaching model that I'll go over with you today, and then I'll send you some links to it so you can have a better understanding of the GROW model.
Sure.
So again, we want to go from their current performance to their potential. It depends upon how we can get the club to look at their situation from a different perspective. Because all they see right now is low membership, no one wanting to sign up for roles, can't fill the officer roles. Individuals are showing up, but they're not becoming members. And now in the virtual world, these problems are multiplied. So this is a prime time to be able to get the clubs to see things like their potential. They had their glory days. They were a very good club in the past. Well, what were those ingredients? What were those elements that made them an exceptional club? So when you look at coaching, this is something that I develop. I do a lot of coaching at TCF for different lines of business. And I always like to approach it from a perspective of building blocks. And let's see what it's not, and let's see what it is. By looking at things from diametrically opposed positions, we can see what works and what doesn't work. And I came up with this push, pull, and partner when it comes to coaching. Oftentimes we want to push. We want to go in there and tell the club, this is what you need to do. You need to get onto Facebook. You need to get on social media. You need to do this. You need to do that. Well, oftentimes the clubs have tried this in the past and been unsuccessful. Or if we push them to do something, will we have the ownership and commitment from the club that they're going to do it? Because if it really isn't their idea, they may not support it. They may not believe in it. So pushing them and telling them what to do is like a consultant who comes in there and says, okay, let's do our moments of truth. Let me interview the officers. Let me sit in a couple meetings. Now I'm going to give you a laundry list of all the things you need to do. That's not effective. We'll talk about it a little bit more in detail. It also goes back based upon that basic premise is people don't like other individuals and telling them what to do. They don't like to be talked down to, and that's how oftentimes coaching is seen as correction rather than coaching to be seen as development. It's a partnership and not a lecture. It's a dialogue and not a monologue. It's me working with you versus me telling you what to do. The pull approach is that when the coach gets so frustrated, and I've seen this in the past, that they just step in and do it themselves. I heard of one club coach that got the guest list and was going to personally call the guest who showed up to a meeting. And he was sharing that with me over the phone, and I said, let's pump the brakes.
Yeah.
I go, why are you calling them?
Yeah.
Well, because the club doesn't know how to. And I go, how did you come to that assumption? Well, I was talking to them, and I told him, look at it from this perspective. If you were looking to lose weight or quit smoking or change some behavioral aspect of your life that you don't like, you wouldn't want somebody jumping in there and saying, okay, you can't eat that and taking it off of your plate. You can't do this. I said, you have to understand it's going to be a learning process, and clubs have to uncover and discover their challenges, but also uncover and discover solutions. Because the club is the club's responsibility. The coach's responsibility is to bring a fresh perspective, to lead them on a journey of uncovering and discovering what could work. So pooling is a very dangerous role to get into.
And the ownership completely gets shifted, and I think, the focus will get lost, and members club would think that coach will take care, right? So eventually that real coaching would get defeated. The intent of coaching would get defeated.
Well, I'll go back to one of my personal coaches. He goes, when you step in and you start doing things for the PBC, the person being coach or the club being coaches, you're hijacking it.
Right.
You're taking it over like you know what's best to do. And that's a trap that we get into, because we want to see the clubs grow. We want to see them thrive. We want to see them move forward. But we always have to remember the club has to have an ownership, a buy-in, an accountability, because if they don't own it, you can't hold them accountable.
Absolutely.
So it's important that we develop the mentality. It's all about partnering, and partnering with the club on a journey of self-discovery. Let's look at their current situation. Let's reflect on options, brainstorming solutions. What could they do? Sometimes you even take a step back and say, what have you done in the last 6 months? What's worked and what's not worked? Because oftentimes one of the biggest obstacles for the club is creating an effective, engaging, and value-added club meeting. Because without a value-added club meeting, without an engaging club meeting, without speakers and evaluators, we lose a great essence of what Toastmasters is all about. So when you're talking to them, it's going to be through a questioning techniques, and how can we get the club to take a deeper dive into their current reality, take a deeper dive into what resources they have available. And one thing that we're going to want to bring the club's perspective back to is all the resources and support District 30 has. And I'll single out one particular topic. Last year, Toastmasters went through a very rocky period when people were reluctant to embrace pathways. I know my current club, as well as a couple clubs that I was talking to, really were stuck on the old manuals.
Okay, the traditional ones.
And I had met Larry New at a district meeting. And as you know, Larry New is all about pathways. He's a pathways ambassador.
Ambassador, yes. Yeah.
I brought him to our club, and I hooked him up with some other clubs to where he could come in and do a presentation. Now think about middle of March 2020. How Pathways has been the best solution and opportunity for our members to grow, because it's all online.
Right.
It's at your fingertips. You can do it at your own leisure. That it was an auspicious idea to start traveling down the roads of a virtual developmental plan, not knowing that COVID was going to be down the road to where almost everything we do is done virtually. So it's really important that we get connected to the resources at the district, that we can match different champions with the groups to be able to help.
Yes, I agree. Leveraging the expertise available within the district is phenomenal. If we apply it at the right time and the right place, then eventually things will improve. I agree completely.
So this is a slide that I added that wasn't in my previous presentation. I'll give you kind of a snapshot. I've been always fascinated with neuroscience.
Okay.
It's not why we think the way we think, but how do we think? What is our thought process? And I saw Anthony Robbins, who pioneered neuro-linguistic programming back in the 90s. And earlier this year, I enrolled in Jim Fortin's neuro-linguistic programming online class called Transformational Coaching Program. And one of the basic tenets of NLP is this: the map is not the territory. That is to say, when you as a coach go into the club. You've met the officers, you've observed a couple meetings. Your perspective is unique to you.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to uncover and discover the club and the club members' perspective of the club. Because we all see the world differently. If you had 10 people standing at an intersection and they saw a car accident, they would give the officers 10 different versions, because how we see the world is all through our filters. And as a coach, you're not going to be aware of all the dynamics that are occurring at the club level. You're only seeing things on the surface. So that is why when it comes to clubs moving forward, is club members have to come up with their solutions. We can guide them on a path of self-discovery, of brainstorming, but we cannot come in there and say, you need to focus on social media, because really our picture of their situation is going to be completely different than the reality of their situation. And that's a difficult thing for coaches to understand, is they're guiding in not consulting. They're guiding in not telling. They're guiding in opening up the club to new opportunities by their questioning skills. I took this directly from the International Coach Federation. That is the organization that certifies coaches, and it's an international organization. We're partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process. That's a questioning process. We're getting them to look at their situation, brainstorm for solutions, set up an action plan with deadlines, and finding individuals besides the coach to be held accountable to. Because we want them to maximize their personal and professional potential. And that's based upon this foundational truth. When we look at individuals, individual clubs, individual officers in clubs, individual club members, they're capable of finding answers. They're capable of taking action, and they're capable of learning new ways to approach their situation. There's a basic premise in NLP that says it's 100% possible 100% of the time. If Bobby can do it, you can do it. If Brenda can do it, you can do it. You just have to find the necessary resources to move forward, to self-correct. And that's one thing that we want to instill within the clubs, is their capacity to be able to solve their problems. The only reason they can't see solutions is they're stuck in the mindset of only their problem. All they see is the boulder on their path. They don't see a way around it. They don't see a way over it, and they don't see a way under it. And we've all encountered that in our own personal lives, to where we've had an issue, a problem, and then we magnify it with worry, with anxiety, to where that issue and problem becomes a giant boulder that we just can't get around. And that's what's refreshing about having a coaching program through Toastmasters, is to bring somebody like you that has a wealth of Toastmaster experience, a wealth of business experience, an individual who has overcome their own challenges, both personally and professionally, that can open up a fresh perspective, open up a new door, open up new opportunities for the clubs to see. I see coaches holding the key to unlock the club's potential. All of us as human beings have such untapped potential. And oftentimes we need a situation or a challenge, a crisis, and a coach that can step in there and help us to unlock it. One of the things that I would like to see you work with the club is, starting out before you even go and visit the club, is to have since we're in the COVID time here, is to give them a call. I know that Valinda will give you the point person in the club, is to give them a call and have a basic meet and greet over the phone. Get to know the history of the club.
Yeah. Okay.
Get to know the officers of the club, their history, their
That's a
background.
great point. Okay.
Because as I've learned, and you have, when it comes to relationships, it's all about connecting to the individual that you're there to serve. You serve them with your products, your services. Here you're going to serve the club with coaching, but before you can serve them with coaching, you need to know their story. Sometimes the area director will give you some background, like one of the clubs that I've been coaching. I got some background from the area director, and I just had asked him point blank, give me 2 to 3 key contacts at that club. I want to interview them over the phone, even before I attend the meeting, because I need to talk to them individually to understand the club story, their challenges. Because oftentimes a club gets off the tracks, not suddenly, but over a period of time. And we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. So after you've had that initial conversation with the club officers, individually preferably, and then as a group, you start attending meetings. One of the best tools that you have is the moments of truth. Because the moments of truth bring us back to the state of the club and what are the Toastmasters principles of a club. That's where the value is added. And they need to do this from an honest, open perspective. I would suggest that they do it individually, no names on the papers. They give them to you, and then you look for common trends. What are some of the things that is being said by more than one person? You could even go as far as you want to rank them, but look for common trends and then be able to read between the lines. What I've said in the academic world, I just wrapped up 12 years of teaching graduate school at Robert Morris. December of last year, this year they've merged with Roosevelt, and I won't be teaching going forward. I've been in training and development 9 years with TCF. What I always tell individuals who take assessments are, the beauty of assessments, it gives you a reflection of who you are in a point of time. The greatest value is, what do you do with that data?
Yes.
Oftentimes we'll take an assessment, then we'll throw it in the drawer, stick it on the filing cabinet, forget about it. But really the question is, what have you done with that information? And the moments of truth really cover everything that we need to understand the strengths in the areas and also the areas that the club needs to improve in. I know that oftentimes is like with coaching, the moments of truth gets a bad rap. But I always like to bring it back to the fact is our elected officials from the city, the state, and the federal level do the State of the Union address, the State of the State address. And when I used to live in Aurora, Mayor Tom Weisner would give us the State of the City address. We need to see where we stand at a moment in time so we can assess, strengthen, and move forward. And that's what Moments of Truth provides. The coach's role. This is where you have to really set boundaries. And I think I'm going to do a little bit more research on how to put together a document that will make sure that the club understands your role in their role. But you're really investing your time in them. And I commend you for adding one more thing to your to-do list, one more thing on your plate to do. So you're investing in the club. You truly are their biggest advocate. You're encouraging them constantly. You're feeling their pain with their challenges. But the most important thing is to equip the club to succeed by connecting them through brainstorming sessions, solutions, resources at the district level. And sometimes they just got to borrow your belief in them because you know their potential to succeed. We just have to get them unstuck. And coaching is all about adding value. As I've looked at it from a personal perspective is you're looking to help them change behavior and or habits that have been unproductive. You have probably been to Toastmaster meetings at other clubs to where no one greets the guests. The roles are not filled. It starts late. It seems to be somewhat disjointed or even chaotic. There's something that's happened in the club's recent history that's derailed them. And us coming from the outside can provide a fresh perspective on what they need to look at. The club's role. This is something you want to articulate to them, and I'll put it in a Word doc. I just finished putting together a retail branch communication on receiving feedback. It is so important that the club be receptive to getting feedback. You don't know what you don't know. We all have blind spots, and the coach is able to identify these blind spots or these disempowering habits that the club doesn't see. So we're hoping that the club is going to be very open-minded. I hope they ask you a lot of questions, that they even challenge themselves, they take action, and they're persistent. One of the things I've asked Melinda to do is before you talk to the club, I want to talk to the club officers and let them know you're going to be working with them, you're going to be partnering with them, and these are some of the boundaries or parameters that we need to set up, or correction, the expectations we need to set, so this is a win-win relationship. The coaching conversation. This comes directly from the GROW model. It might be something that you're familiar with. It's one of the most universally accepted coaching models, and I think this is a simple building blocks that the club can understand, and you as a coach can help them uncover and discover. But let's talk about red flags. When it comes to decline, it doesn't happen overnight. It's gradual. That there has been a period of months, maybe years, that there have been some red flags, like a decrease in membership. People are not renewing. Attendance. We don't have officers showing up. We don't have some of our key members showing up. Sometimes we've got people filling multiple roles. So what's wrong with attendance? Noel brought up an excellent point on a TLI that I was in, that if somebody misses 2 meetings, that's 1 month. That's a 1/12 of the year. That's staggering. And I'll tell you about a club that I heard that it was so disheartening when they shared the story that one of their officers had missed 2.5 months before somebody called her to find out she was she had a stroke, I think it was, and she was living with her son. And I'm thinking, how can you go 2.5 months and not inquire why one of your officers is not attending the meetings?
Yeah, and very few officers, so there's no reason why not to, even at a personal level, be engaged with their own officers. So yeah, that really makes sense. Yeah,
well,
I agree.
When you look at the club size, we don't have Toastmaster clubs with 50 and 60 individuals. We have a lot of Toastmaster clubs that really only have 20 or 30. And I think it's imperative that that membership list be divided amongst the officers, and they should be checking on them. And I'll give you kind of something I share with my club is as we were getting into November, December and planning our holiday party, I said, we need to talk to our members and see what are their professional goals for 2020 and how can we help them achieve them? Because everybody has a goal on why they're at Toastmasters. As you mentioned, it was improving your presentation skills, influence, and persuasion. For me, it was sharpening the saw, becoming a more effective speaker, and moving to the stage. But sometimes those professional goals change. And we, as leaders in our club, should be checking the goals and expectations of our members. Another red flag is no one's given a speech. No one's even giving the canned prepared speeches that Toastmaster makes available. And to me, that's the main component of a Toastmaster meeting is the speech and evaluation part.
Yes.
So if you're not doing that, then what are you doing?
Yeah, and those are golden slots you don't get easily. So, especially coming from my club's background where our member strength is 45. At any point in time we always have 40 plus, but on an average I see 45. I handle membership, so I know. So we get a lot of organic traffic, but we also network with and bring in more people. So and pretty much every slot. So we five speech slots in a week. If we miss one, it is, and if we miss one of 52 meetings, 52 slots in a year is gone. So there is a real value to it. And yeah, you are right, absolutely right. That's a golden piece of Toastmaster meeting, both the speech and evaluation. I completely agree.
Excellent. Because to me, that's where the real value is in Toastmasters, is the meeting, and the meeting has 2 pillars, speech and evaluations.
Right.
And that's how we develop leaders. And going to the next one, officer and meeting roles not filled. These clubs are experiencing this over a period of time where they're scrambling the day of the meeting, or like I've seen, you walk into a meeting, they go, hey, you need to fill this role. Well, don't put me on the spot. I thought we had a sign-up sheet. Or you get the agenda and 2 or 3 people are signed up for a speech and only one of them shows up. So that is what I talk about, gradual decline, that it happens over a period of time, and the officers members of the club are just going through the motions and not understanding, that's when they start to get off the tracks. That's when they start to lose the quality of the meetings. That's when people start asking themselves the question, why am I paying this membership fee if I'm not getting anything out of it?
Yeah, it's a negative spiral. It would then lead to nowhere and people starting moving out of clubs. And yeah, I completely agree. And so more than pointing fingers, point your finger towards you, see what value you can add and sort of be participative. And yeah, I see what you're talking, and it's important. I couldn't agree more.
Very true. And you look at it from this perspective, and I'll just be very point blank. We got a lot of demands on our time outside of work. And for those that have a family, they even have greater demands. So if I'm going to give you 2 hours of my life plus commute time twice a month, I need to be getting something out of it.
Right.
And I come very much from a business mind, and I know I've been on a variety of organizations. I've been very involved in the Hispanic community. I've served on the Chicago chapter of national organizations. And I always keep looking at it from a business perspective. If we don't deliver value, our members will go elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Because when it comes to us as individuals, one of the most important things that we have to do is prioritize our time and invest in those things that are going to give us a return on our investment.
Yes.
Then I'll go into the last one, pathways.
Sure.
When you have a club, and I'll look at it from two perspectives, officers and those tenured members, when they are resistant to pathways, that's going to be a problem. And I understand that we as human beings, and using the basics of neuroscience, the reptilian part of the brain likes familiarity. It likes a routine. It doesn't like when our patterns are changed. So we by nature are adverse to change. But when you have officers and veteran members of the club speaking poorly of pathways or discounting pathways, that sends the wrong message.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I have been in more than one club that has been demonstrated. So now we get to what are some of the club's challenges. And the way I like to look at this is, we'll go back a moment. Is it that man pushing the ball up the side of the mountain based on that Greek mythology? That's all they see as the problem. And you as a coach will help them see different perspectives. And it starts with what we call the GROW model. Borrowing from the late Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind.
Yeah, the seventh goal.
Mm-hmm. When the clubs are looking at their situation, they need to ask themselves, what are some short-term goals that we can move forward to? So I always advise the coaches is brainstorm with the club. What would you like to accomplish in the next 3 months or the next 6 months? Because we need to start setting up short-term goals. Because when it comes to getting a club back on track, it's going to take small successes, small changes. And that's why the coach has to let the club guide them on what do they think they can do with the number of people that they have. And I'll give you a great example. There was a man who found me on LinkedIn. I have my Toastmaster information in my profile. He is a club president in the DC metro area, and we went through this GROW model. And I really thought that he was going to tell me, I need to focus on membership. Membership is my number one thing, because they had a very good established club that over a 6 to 8 month period, members started leaving, and some of the people that were leaving were really the committed Toastmasters.
Oh, okay.
And after probably a series of 4 calls, he said, Arturo, my goal is this simple. If I don't have a quality meeting, nobody's going to show up.
Yeah.
And I said, what? And he goes, what does Toastmasters deliver? What is their service? What is their product? And he said, a quality meeting of speeches and evaluations. Because the people that are coming in the door to my club, because where it's located, are wanting to be more influential in their job, more persuasive in their job. And we have to give them the opportunity to practice, to grow. So he goes, I need quality meetings. And that's how simple the goal setting should be. What will add value to the club that will get them back on the right track. And when they brainstorm, they may give you 17, 20 ideas. Well, we got to bring it down to 3 because the human mind only has the capacity to focus on a small number of things at one time. And a lot of these clubs are very depleted when it comes from an officer and member perspective. So we should identify their top 3 goals, but define them to the nth degree, get as specific as possible. That's when I asked that gentleman, what is a quality meeting? He says a minimum of 2 speeches every meeting, rotating the evaluators, getting feedback from the attendees, either creating your own speech or using the speeches that are provided by Toastmasters. But he goes, we need to deliver speeches and evaluate speeches and give individuals the valuable feedback they need to be more effective in their job. Next is reality. That's the R in grow. And I always like the picture of the iceberg because that's the best way to depict the coaching process, is that you need to work with the club officers in defining their reality. Where are they now? They need to be objective and they need to be honest. Because what you see is the top of the iceberg. You see 2 or 3 people giving speeches or no one giving speeches or 2 or 3 people in multiple roles or no new members or no guest. That's what you see at the surface, but we have to get to beneath the surface. And I kind of summarized it in this one. I borrowed this term from the NFL. What are the optics? When I walk into a club, what do I see? I see low turnout, no new members, no speeches, officers doing multiple roles, no engagement. I sat in a Toastmaster club that only out of 12 people, only 2 people did table topics. Nobody wanted to go up there and do a table topic. And I was thinking, okay, we have to look at engagement or low or lack of enthusiasm. But beneath the surface, that's invisible to us, may have been officer turnover. Maybe we had a really good president or a really good VP of membership, and because of a change in their job, they're no longer there. Maybe we lost our vision. Maybe we never even had a vision. There's no value-added proposition. I'm coming here, spending 2 hours of my time socializing. Poor meeting structure, where people are filling multiple roles, and because they're doing that, they're less effective in that role. So it's kind of like, I like to use the word disjointed. It's or you could even say the word dysfunctional, and they do not engage visitors. And that's one thing that seems to be the Achilles heel of a lot of organizations, Toastmasters and other groups I've been involved in. If I have no degree of familiarity with you, if I don't know you, I may not be so apt to approach you.
Yes, I agree.
And going back to neurolinguistic programming, it talks about the reptilian brain, and the reptilian brain is structured with fight or flight. And when I walk into a room, I assess everybody there. And if they're like me, I feel welcome. And if they're not like me, I do not feel welcomed.
Completely.
So we have to overcome that almost nature side of who we are and be willing to approach people, especially guests, because guests usually come alone.
Yes.
Because I've been invited to things and the person invited me never showed up, or I sought them out. And if I seek you out as a club, I'm doing it for a reason. Therefore, you should be seeking me out. I remember I went to a club. It wasn't until the end of the meeting did somebody come up to me and say, "What brought you here?" And I was thinking, I was here 10 minutes early. You really didn't talk to me. If I didn't have a purpose, I would have got up and left.
Yes, I agree.
So the options, this is a kind of a formula that I developed over the last couple of years. And I really believe no matter what you're doing in life, there are 3 simple questions to ask. What do I need to know? Who do I need to know? And where do I need to go? I'll give you a great example. Last year, I was challenged by one of my friends to develop a podcast.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, hold on a minute. What do you mean? Because I've been approached many times and people say, you got a great voice for radio. And I said, I've never been able to get in that industry, voiceovers or any of that. And one of my friends said, you know what? Do your own podcast, put your voice out in the marketplace, and let's see if people will come to you.
Right.
And I told him, great idea. So how do I do a podcast? He goes, I don't know. So what did I have to do? I had to do my research. And where did I do my research is number 3. Where do I need to go was with the internet. I've read numerous articles. I watch YouTube videos. I finally developed enough information to start moving forward with developing podcast. And I've been doing podcasts since November of last year. Then spring of this year, or should say November of 2019. Then I bumped into CJ Powers, who does his podcasts. And he's been doing that for years, and he's been able to fill number 2. Who do I need to know? So when you're going through that brainstorming session with them, the O in grow, the options is, what do you need to know? Who do you need to know? And at the district, there's so many great individuals. Lamont Boyd is on my champions calls. He's been able to speak about how do we take a virtual online experience and make it engaging, exciting, and most of all, a learning environment. And then where do I need to go? On our champions call yesterday, we had the incoming district director for Washington, D.C. on the call. She had done her research online. She was drawn to District 30 website. She signed up for the class because she goes, I know I need to go to your club because you're doing what I think we need to do. And I chuckled to myself because I knew I was going to do this presentation with you today. And I said, that's my 3 simple questions. What do I need to know? Who do I need to know? And where do I need to go? This is the most critical part, is the W in the GROW model is your way forward. How do you take these options, these ideas, and put together a plan? And put together a plan that is broken down into actionable steps that are assigned to different individuals to execute. And you, coming from a business background, know that execution is the critical component of doing anything, and oftentimes we can't get people to execute. We can't get them to move forward. And that's where you as a coach are really going to need to encourage them by setting up a timeline, doing these periodical check-ins, holding them accountable, and celebrating any of the successes they have.
Yep.
Because if we go back to the basic premises, 100% possible 100% of the time, if we can get them to develop a plan and move forward on that plan, things are going to get better. But right now, they're stuck, they're dysfunctional, they're confused, they're struggling, and a coach will give them that fresh perspective. Because we want to ultimately create clubs that thrive. And why do I like the word thrive is, when you look it up in the dictionary, it has 4 basic components. We want them to develop, which means mature. This club can grow big enough that it can split into multiple clubs. We want to see an increase in their membership. We will see an increase in individuals moving into officer roles. Because what's beautiful about Toastmasters, it has a great leadership path. And I'm factoring out pathways and just talking about you can serve in different roles in a Toastmaster meeting or in a Toastmaster club that will develop your leadership and at times your followership skills. We want them to prosper. We want them to become a distinguished club. That will probably be a midterm or long-term goal, but every little success is going to matter. And we want them to be healthy. Why? Because if you're healthy, that means you're going to be around. You're going to be sustainable. Because the district had originally given me the word sustainable. And I said, that's a nice corporate word to use. But I said, in our volunteer organization, we need to reframe it.
Right.
Because nobody here is getting a salary. Everybody's doing it for their love of wanting to serve and help others.
Yes.
So let's use a basic thrive model. Again, we would like to see the club move to distinguish over a period of time, but we need to get them on the road. And I always love ending with a quote. And I think this one in particular really kind of frames and reframes the role of a coach. The world as we've created is a process of our thinking. And I would say, therefore, it cannot be changed without changing our thinking. These are good clubs. These are led by good people. They just got stuck in a couple problems that overwhelmed them. And now they only see the problem and they don't see the solution. And you as a coach, through using the GROW model, goals, reality, options, and way forward, can take them on this journey of self-discovery to where it's going to be more inviting and most of all more productive when you walk side by side with them versus you telling them, these are the 6 things you need to do. Or you know what, I'll do 3 of them, you just do 3 of them. Because when you leave after 1 year of being a coach, where will that club be? It will be in the same position it was, or maybe 2 steps in the right direction, but it will not be a club that thrives because we have not empowered them. And that's our goal as a coach, is to empower them, because they have the capacity to do what they need to do. They're just confused, they're overwhelmed, they're frustrated, and probably they've lost hope. So I'll open up to any questions you might have.
Sure. Arturo, I think yeah, I would definitely have to say this. It was very, very insightful, very specific, and I liked the approach of you practically linking to experiences, and just not limiting to the Toastmaster concept alone. Adding spice from your own experience makes it easier to understand, and I felt that as well. Thank you very much. I have very specific few questions
Okay.
which I would like to talk. So when I start engaging with the club, as part of the process with Belinda, during the initial few meetings, please correct me if I'm wrong. It's more than a question. It is my approach or my thought process of how I should apply or approach and start my engagement with the club. And please correct me if I am going in a different direction. So as I start my engagement, yes, I'll first have to understand the cultural aspect of the club, the history of the club, the background, their past experiences, and possibly might get some insight from the previous club coaches if they had any. And then as I start attending their meetings, the first few meetings I would prefer to be a passive member, understanding the way that they conduct meetings, organize things, organize the next meetings, greet the audiences, new members if they come, so on and so forth. And before jumping to a conclusion, before start making being an advocate of telling what to do, trying to getting the ground reality of where they stand, and then slowly partnering with them, not being more pushy, but push pull, and you talk the right those specific keywords, which is definitely amazing to adopt. So partnering with them in a way that they really start feeling comfortable to work with a coach who really understands, who comes regularly to the meetings, and then slowly coming out with a roadmap of, yes, long-term vision of being a distinguished club is great, but every success starts for the first step. So the first step has to be a short-term goal where they can achieve, see the results, and celebrate the result, and making them feel comfortable. They start achieving and slowly start empowering, but also being progressive in terms of their goals, in accomplishing the roadmap of what has to be done in a year, and then monitoring and kind of hand holding and calibrating if they go in a different direction. So this is the from your kind of your 1 hour's time, which is really valuable. That's what I feel. I think I should adapt and move forward. Do you see this is in a way coming close to your thoughts, Arturo?
Correct, because the way I look at it, since we're both from the business world, is you got to discover who they are.
Right.
You've got to, and that has to be done outside of the meeting.
Okay.
And I prefer that be done even on a non-day of the meeting. I know a lot of times the area directors will come in and meet with the clubs before their stated meeting or after their stated meeting. I don't think we as a coach should do that. I think we as a coach should be talking to them either individually or as a small group on a non-club meeting date, because then there's no pressure. They can focus on it and they can tell you their story, because a lot of these clubs, they were so successful, but something happened. So it's that discovery. So you do your discovery, then you go in and you do your observations. And I like what you said is you're not going to take a role in the meeting. You're going to be there observing the meeting. You may get up and do a table topic, but the whole thing is you need to observe. You need to go. Now I see, what do my optics tell me? What am I seeing here? I know what a successful club looks like. I'm in a successful club.
Sure.
What is missing? So you discover, you observe, and then you're going to want to have that conversation with them. You know,
Got it.
and that's where you can talk about a little bit more in detail. What are some of your goals? What would you like to accomplish?
Sure.
You know, how do you see the club? Be objective. How did you see Thursday's meeting? If you had a chance to improve Thursday's meeting, what would you do differently? Or I would rephrase it like this. When you look at Thursday's meeting, is there anything you would have done differently? What is that? Okay, how would that have changed the meeting? Because we always have to make sure that our language is non-accusatory, non-judgmental.
Right. Yeah.
But we want them to they're so stuck in their routine, they're so stuck in their habit that they don't see me serving 3 roles. Well, there was 4 other people that could have done it is not good.
Yeah.
Because how can you get members engaged when they participate in the meeting? And you're going to have a couple people, because the reason why I want you to do that discovery phase is, let's be honest, there are going to be a few individuals there that'll go, what in the world is Chris doing here? What is he going to tell me what to do? You know, he doesn't know my club. He doesn't know my situation. Is we got to ease into the role of being a coach and not a consultant. And how do you do that? By getting to know them as individuals. Just like sales. I can't sell to you until I know who you are. I can't be of service to you until I know who you are.
Right.
So it really is, and I'll go back to coaching in particular. What a coach does is they influence and persuade. They help plant seeds of new ideas into the mind of the person or the club being coached. And you cannot influence, you cannot persuade if you haven't built rapport.
Right. I agree.
If I don't see you as a friend, if I don't see you as an advocate, if I don't see you as a partner, whatever you say to me goes in one ear and goes right out the other.
Yeah. Don't be open.
You're like the 3rd coach I've had in 2 years, and you don't know what you're talking about. So I'd go back to all that discovery is the rapport building. It's all the, let's just say, the detective work on figuring out what their story is. So when you see the club in action, you're going to have a little bit better idea why they do what they do.
Got it. Clear. Arturo. My second question, basic question again. So do I need to be a paid member to be a club coach of that club?
The way I understand it is, Linda had told me that some coaches have joined the club.
Okay.
I think because of your role, you still want to remain very objective. That's a personal choice.
I see. Okay. Got it. Clear. And the third question, I think you already answered. So pretty much the brainstorming sessions, which I would like to do with the offices and stuff, I should do it mostly out of the meeting time, so that the meeting time is a quality time where people get value out of that, right? So I think that you made it very clear. Yeah.
And the main reason for that is that you really want the officers and maybe that core group of Toastmasters to really have an honest conversation. And there may be individuals who are members that don't know the real story.
Sure.
And you don't want to, as the old saying goes, you don't want to air your dirty laundry in front of others. That's why it's really for the leadership team for you to talk to. And maybe that is all the members, because the club has lost so many members. But I would start with the core group. And again, you do it outside of the meeting, because the meeting has a purpose.
Yes.
And it's not a coaching meeting.
Right.
It is a meeting to develop leaders, and you should not infringe on that.
Yeah, I agree completely. That gives big clarity. Yeah. Thank you, Arturo. I think this is all I had. This was an amazing session, I would say, and I really appreciate you taking the time to have a one-on-one session on a Friday evening. So,
by all means, and I'll send you a link. I think it's Mind Tools. I'll send it to you that has the grow model broken down. And then I'll go back to Belinda to see which club she's going to assign you to. And then I'm going to want that club to contact, I'll contact that club directly. And I'll do a soft handoff in the sense that I'm going to build the bridge between you and the club and say that you're going to be working with them. And then if you could, like every, I'd say, 3rd meeting you go to, or correction, once a month or every other month, just give me an update.
Sure.
And if time were to permit and you would need me to come along and observe or whatever, I would be more than willing to, because I really want to see the clubs thrive. Because in my opinion, Toastmasters is really a diamond in the rough because most of the students I taught in graduate school, when I would talk about learning and development, they said, you know what, our company doesn't do that. We just do compliance training. There's no development. Toastmasters is the least expensive, most impactful way to develop leadership, and I like to say followership skills.
Absolutely, I agree.
Because in the business world we're not all leaders, but a lot of us are followers. And how do I play the role as a follower to where I'm elevating my boss and elevating my department by putting that first?
Sure. That's amazing. Yes, that helps as well, Arturo. So before concluding, so you would continue to be trainer to trainer, sort of like coaches. You would still be a guide to the coaches even in the next term, or how would you see you play?
It's great that you asked that question. I had a chance to work with Patty on the virtual conference. And I told Patty, as well as Stella and Valinda, that my goal is to keep this role in the 2021 year.
I see.
Because I want to build a turnkey operation to where whoever takes us in the future, they'll have a standard operating procedure, they'll have training material, they'll kind of have a roadmap on how to do this, because I really think, and again, nothing against Toastmaster International, but they have the wrong premise. Their approach is a coach is a doctor who prescribes medicine. That's a consultant. A coach needs to be a partner on a journey of self-discovery because, again, everybody at Toastmasters is a volunteer.
Right.
They're giving of their time to serve in a club, to pay a membership due, and coaching is all about partnership. So I said, if I can change the culture of District 30 and maybe start a ripple effect across the organization and reposition coaching, not as correction, but as development, I think coaching will take off and do what it's supposed to do, accelerate change.
Agreed.
Patty liked that idea, so I'm going to stay on as the club coach. And I'm also going to serve, I think, as an area director, if I'm correct. I think I'm going to be, she broached the subject with that, and I told her, this stage of my life, I'm 54. I know I want to get to do some public speaking on my own. Toastmasters is what I'm going to focus on. I've dropped all my other commitments outside of my church, where I told her, you have me 100% of my time to build what I think, and I have a heart of service. I really want to position people for success as my personal mission statement. And I think that's the way I can fulfill it here in Toastmasters is coach. And then I did professional development workshops for the month of May for people who lost their job. I did resume writing. Next month, I'm doing LinkedIn. This is a great place for me to pour my energy into because you're all good people, you have a heart of service, and you're really making a difference.
Right. Thank you, Arturo, again. Really appreciate your time, and this has definitely been a good learning experience. And excellent. I hope to work with you in the future as well.
Well, like I said, once I will be finished with this call, I will send an email to Valinda, get the ball rolling to assign you to a club. Then I'll do the soft handoff by talking to the club in advance. And feel free, you got my cell number. Anytime you want, just shoot me a text, give me a call, and I will partner with you as you partner with the club.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much, Arturo.
Take care. Have a wonderful weekend.
And you too, sir.
Thank you.
Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.